What's up, everybody? Welcome to Youth Group Online for July 1st, 2020. My name is Carter. You know the deal. We're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about Jesus. We're going to try not to burp like I just did in the middle of a sentence. We're going to have a Zoom party later. There's a song involved in this video here. And we're going to kick off things with a new segment that I call Youth Group Top 10. Let's go. It's a top 10 list of random things that I just kind of come up with. If you have a top 10 list, if you have some suggestions, feel free to send them in. This week we have top 10 signs your mother is a secret agent. You know, you've been at home for a few months, been around your family a whole lot more. Maybe you've picked up on a few interesting habits that you didn't know your mother had. Let's get into it. Number 10, every note she writes you ends with, "This will self-destruct in 10 seconds." Number 9, she has a secret red phone that calls the president, calls your school principal, and Pastor Tom. Number 8, you sometimes hear her talking into her purse about Operation Lose the Kids. That would explain why my mom did that all the time. Top 10 signs your mother is a secret agent. Number 7, there's a strange red button in your mom's minivan that says, "Do not press." But of course, like when you see a red button that says "do not press," you absolutely want to press it. What if it's an eject button? That would be awesome. What if it's like a licorice dispenser? That would be awesome too. If I see a red button, I need to press it. Number 6, instead of using a fly swatter, she throws thumbtacks with incredible precision. Number 5, your mother has hooked you and your siblings up to a lie detector in order to determine who really broke the lamp. Number 4, her vacuum cleaner has a bazooka attachment. I mean, I want that. Number 3, reason your mom may be a secret agent, she has beaten Braden Strong at arm wrestling. Just gonna leave that one there. Number 2, when your baby brother or sister cries, they put him to sleep with random chokeholds. And if you are the baby brother or sister, I'm so sorry. And the number 1 reason why your mom may be a secret agent, when she drops you off at youth group, she insists that you jump out of the moving car while she does a donut in the parking lot. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it, Youth Group Top 10. If you have your own top 10s, go ahead and send them in. Would love to get you guys in on this. And with that, you know, I've got some announcements that I want to share. But instead of me just like listing them off, here's a video of my kids dancing with the announcements on the screen. Enjoy.
Feel it in my body, feel it in my feet, and it feels so good inside. When I hear that music, it gets me on my feet, makes me wanna dance all night. Don't make me remember everything you did, 'cause I don't wanna hurt inside. Feel it in my body, feel it in my feet.
See, wasn't that much more entertaining? And now a word from our friend Carl with 2 L's.
Morning, Carl.
Andy, thought you were working from home today.
Nope, I've got to get some stuff done.
Oh, I just thought all non-essential personnel were working from home.
Ouch. Well, that seems a little harsh. What are you doing, by the way?
I'm prepping.
Prepping for what?
The virus, you fool, it's spreading more than ever.
Okay, well, just calm down. They told us not to panic.
Not to panic? That's exactly what they say when you're supposed to panic.
I don't think that's true.
If you're not supposed to panic, why are they calling it a panic-demic?
You mean pandemic?
No, Andy, that's a lunch meat.
Okay, listen, either way, I think you're overreacting.
How so?
Yeah, we're supposed to take precautions, but we're supposed to remain calm. Now, Carl, those are allergies. I'm not sick. Don't. Put it down. Listen, I don't want you taking this too far.
What were you saying?
Nothing.
Listen, Andy, if you read what I read this morning, you'd be scared too.
What did you read? I mean, what one-sided, unreliable source did you read from this morning, Carl?
It's called the Bible.
Oh, I didn't mean...
Oh, I bet you didn't. James 4:8, wash your hands, you sinners.
Carl, that's not...
You ain't doing this again. There's a no special meaning, no gray area. It says as pure as day. Wash your hands, you sinners. From now on, this is all I'm doing. If I'm not constantly washing my hands and staying clean, I'm not obeying God.
Carl, I'd hate to bust your nonsensical bubble right now, but that passage is way more deeper than that.
You're telling me I'm taking this out of context?
Yes, absolutely. See, Carl, this passage has nothing to do with washing our physical hands. All it's about is pursuing God and God alone. It's about turning away from our sinful desires and only pursuing Him.
Wow. I guess context is super important.
Yep.
I guess that means I never have to wash my hands again.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. You still need to wash your hands and be a decent human being.
I think I heard you loud and clear.
Please don't.
Thank you, Andy. Everything that you do, it's so special. Every single bit, all your knowledge of Scripture, it's the best. I love it. I love you. I love everything about you. You are truly an amazing man, and there's nothing that I wouldn't do to protect you. I'm gonna protect you from everything. This virus, it doesn't have anything on us. We can defeat it together. All right? All right.
I want to start today by telling a story. Back in the day, a guy and a girl from two different tribes of people got married. At their wedding reception, the groom told a riddle to some guys from the bride's town and made a bet with them that they couldn't solve it. So the guys went to the bride and asked for a favor, saying, "Hey, I know y'all just got married, but we need you to get your guy to give us the answer to this riddle and then tell it to us. And if you don't, we're gonna kill you and your parents. Got it?" So the bride begged her husband for the answer, and he caved. She passes the intel to her hometown bros. They solved the riddle and they won the bet. Now the groom was unhappy about this. He lost his temper, killed a bunch of their people, and then left town. The bride's dad is like, "Wow, that was the worst wedding reception ever." He assumes the groom is gone for good, so he gives his daughter to be married to somebody else. But after a little time passes, the groom comes back and he asks his wife's dad, "Hey, where's my wife?" The dad's like, I thought you were gone, so I gave her to be married to someone else." "Why don't you marry her younger sister? She's more prettier anyways." The groom is like, no. And so again, the groom flips out. He captures a bunch of foxes and lights their tails on fire. I mean, can someone say animal cruelty? The foxes run around like their tails are on fire because they are. And in the process, they start a wildfire that burns down a bunch of the grain, vineyards, and the olive groves in town. Now here's what's crazy. This story is in the Bible. It doesn't read exactly the same way that I told it, but the basic plot is there. It's found in the book of Judges in the Old Testament, chapters 14 and 15. And as a kid, I would hear this story and other stories from the Bible, and I think, what does this story from the Bible have to do with my life? Teaching me to never tell riddles at a wedding reception? Is it trying to teach me not to set animals on fire? Like, what is this even about? Last time we met, we started a conversation about the Bible. And we said that Jesus is the point of the Bible. And that when the Bible is confusing, knowing that the point of the Bible is getting to know Jesus better makes it clear. But the truth is, Jesus doesn't show up in a lot of the things that we read. He doesn't appear in the story about the foxtails. Jesus helps us see God more clearly and helps us see the whole story of God and humans more clearly. But what are we supposed to do with the rest of the Bible? What about verses that seem weird? If your Bible verse of the day is, "When he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour." What are you supposed to do with that? Stories that seem crazy, with talking donkeys and voices coming out of fire. Commands that don't make sense. There's a command in Leviticus for people not to wear clothes that are made out of two different kinds of material. So if you're wearing a cotton polyester blend, you're in trouble, right? Wait, that doesn't seem right at all. The point is, Sometimes there's a disconnect between what we're told about the Bible and what we actually experience when we read it. We're told that the Bible can change us, help us, and guide us. But when we take the time to read it ourselves, it can actually be quite confusing. And how can something confusing change us, help us, and guide us? Is there something that we're missing? Is there a different way to do this? And if there was a different way, would it help us understand verses like, don't wear clothing made out of 2 different fabrics? Is there a way for verses like that to be explained? The good news is, there is a way forward. And understanding that the Bible is and what it's meant to be helps us to get the Bible in a way maybe we haven't been able to before. So let's start with the basics. There are 2 halves of the Bible. The Old Testament, also known as the Hebrew Scriptures, and the New Testament. The Old Testament is the Jewish Bible and it's pre-Jesus. The New Testament includes Jesus' life and the start of the church after Jesus died and came back to life. But within these 2 parts, there's a lot going on. It's a big book, and in fact, it's not a book at all. Here's what I mean. The Bible is actually 66 different documents and documents of different types that got put all together. There are poetry books and books that include laws given to the people of Israel. There are books the people of Israel wrote of their history and wisdom books, books containing a lot of advice. There are letters, lots of letters written to different people in different parts of the world. And they are all wrapped up into one big book. To better understand this, I want you to think about the words you have to read in your regular life. And hold on, I can show you. So I've got all different kinds of books here. We've got like a history book that maybe you have to, read in your, AP history class. We've got like some sort of instruction manual teaching you how to do something. Maybe when you were growing up, you were really into comics. So you've got that, a whole booklet of all the texts that you've received in your life, all wrapped up in this nice little notebook here. Just, self-help books that, that people have given you as gifts on Christmas that you just haven't really had the time to read. Something fun, something enjoyable that you like to read. And then just a book of just poetry and literature that's bounded up in nice gold foil there, right? Now imagine them all these books just being mashed together and we put this cover all around them. And this represents the story of everything. Like this is your whole life as a book. Yikes. I mean, it's kind of true, right? A big part of your life is in here, but it's also not all the same. Like what if someone opened up this giant book to the part where it was originally like your history textbook and was like, oh wow, obviously the Civil War played a really important part in this person's life, right? And everything is just starting to fall apart right now because that also happens in life too. Or what if somebody read the text and thought that was the history of your life or some really bad poetry that was put together? Or, and this is scary, what if they read the whole thing from front to back and assumed it was all in chronological order? Maybe they would assume you were born during the American Revolution, grew up during Shakespeare's time, and lived through the invention of cell phones. I know this is all really silly, but here's what I'm getting at. We do this to the Bible all the time because all the documents have one big cover around them and we call them the Bible. People get confused and believe it's all the same or it's all in order or every single piece of it is meant to be read in the same way, and it's confusing. When we read the Bible without understanding we're actually reading one of 66 different documents, we're missing one hugely important piece of scripture. We're missing context. Sometimes it's helpful for me to think of it this way. I'm not reading the Bible, I'm reading a document found in the Bible. I'm not reading a book, I'm reading a letter written to a specific group of people living in the first century, or pieces of wise advice a father wrote down for his son, or a history book recording everything that happened, or a song written to God by someone who knew him well, or an eyewitness account of someone who actually hung out with Jesus. Context matters. It changes how we read everything. So we are going to look at 2 passages, and the first is from 2 Timothy. This is what we know. It's called 2 Timothy because it was the second letter written to a guy named Timothy. The Apostle Paul, a mentor who was a close friend to Timothy, was the one who wrote it. Timothy was a pastor of a church in Ephesus, a church full of people who were struggling with all kinds of things. And this is what Paul writes. Only Luke is with me. Bring Mark with you when you come, for he will be helpful to me in my ministry. I sent Tychicus to Ephesus. When you come, be sure to bring the coat I left with Carpus at Troas. Also bring my books, and especially my papers. Context makes this make sense. Paul left his jacket and wants Timothy to bring it back. Let me give you a second example. If you've been around the church for a while, then you probably have heard or read this verse. For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. With no context, this verse could seem like we just stumbled across a magic genie in a bottle. I can dunk a 10-foot basketball goal through Christ who gives me strength. I can pass Spanish without studying through Christ who gives me strength. I can get multiple dates this year through Christ who gives me strength. With no context at all, this sounds like a formula for living the life of our dreams. But does it mean what we think it means? Here, context helps. This was also a letter written by the Apostle Paul, but this time to an entire church. Imagine if a leader at church moved to take a job in another state and then wrote our church a letter to read out loud during service. That's the idea of this letter. But there's more. Paul wrote to them from prison after being arrested for his faith. And in this part of the letter, Paul was thanking them for sending him some financial support and acknowledged their kindness. At the same time, he assured them that they didn't need to feel obligated to send more money. Paul let them know he'll be okay, whether he has a little or a lot. He's like, I've had a full stomach and a hungry one, and I've learned to be content either way. So this section is really about contentment. And Paul is letting them know that he has figured out how to be peaceful and content with his life, whether life is going good or bad. And as Paul writes this letter, things are actually really difficult for him. So how can Paul find contentment even as he writes from prison with very few things going his way? For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. Paul was dependent on Jesus. His close relationship with Jesus gave him the power and strength to persevere and find peace, even when things were tough. So the point isn't so much we can win this game because God is on our side. It's more like, because of Jesus, we can be okay. Whether we have a lot of money or a little, whether life is going our way or not, we can turn our attention away from our circumstances and on to Jesus. And in turn, we can find peace through him. See how the verse changes as we discover context? It helps us understand it better, and it helps us know what we are supposed to do with it now. Think of it this way. Context creates clarity. I mean, imagine if you found a note on the floor at your school. I know people don't write notes to each other anymore, but just follow along with me. Let's say it was a note that was exchanged between two friends in a different class, but one of them dropped it in the hallway. You picked it up, and the note said this: "Quit acting like a bully. I already said I'm sorry. Why can't you just drop it?" Would you read that note and think, am I acting like a bully to someone? What am I holding on to that I need to drop? No. You would understand the note was written to someone else. You would assume there was conflict between two friends, and you would accept the fact that there was more to the story than you know. But we read the Bible this way a lot. We randomly pick verses or passages and have no idea why they were written or who they were written to. We try to assume we should do exactly what they say in our own lives, even if that wasn't the whole point. No wonder it can be so confusing sometimes. Without background and the bigger picture behind words in the Bible, we're just guessing at what we're supposed to learn from it. And don't miss this. If what we said last week is true, if the point of the Bible is to know God better, it's too important to just guess at what's going on. If we miss the backstory, if we miss the big picture, we run the risk of missing out on understanding the God behind it all too. So, instead of being overwhelmed by what we don't understand, let's look for what we can learn in context. The next time you come across a verse you don't understand, try asking these questions. Who wrote it? And who was this written to? Sometimes a passage doesn't make sense to us because we don't understand who the audience is. Start there. Second, why was it written down? 2 Timothy was written to encourage a friend in his leadership as a Christian. Philippians was written to remind a group of people that they were loved by God, and Paul, the author of the letter, was trying to encourage them to keep following Jesus. When you can figure out the why, it can make what was written more clearly and more easily understood. The third question is, what made people think this information should be written down or saved? Over the thousands of years since some of these texts were written down, decisions had to be made about what texts would be included and what wouldn't. What about what you're reading made people think it was important enough to protect? And fourth, is it helpful to me or not? The whole Bible is important, but not all parts are equally helpful to you every moment of every day, and that's okay. A tip could be to read a passage of scripture until you bump up against something that is helpful, and then stop there. Think about it. Maybe write down a few thoughts on why it's helpful and what you plan on doing with it. The Bible has the ability to change our lives. But sometimes getting to the part that can be life-changing takes more than just closing our eyes, opening to a page, and reading the first words we see. So what if you and I made a decision to quit looking at the Bible with all kinds of confusion and start looking at it with courage instead? Instead of us throwing up our hands and giving up because the Bible doesn't make sense, what if we approached it with curiosity and put in the effort to discover why things were written? What if we took the Bible seriously, even when things don't make sense immediately? Context creates clarity, and clarity helps us discover why what was written down, and how it's helpful to our lives right now. And as we discover what's helpful, we become people who are changed for the better.
Praise be the nurses and doctors, every medical staff bent over flesh to offer care, for lives saved and lives lost, for showing up either way. Praise for the farmers tilling soil, planting seeds so food can grow, an act of hope if ever there was. Praise be the janitors and garbage collectors, the grocery store clerks and the truck drivers barreling through long, quiet nights. Give thanks for bus drivers, delivery persons, postal workers, and all those keeping an eye on water, gas, and electricity. Blessings on our leaders making hard choices for the common good, offering words of assurance. Celebrate the scientists working away to understand the thing that plagues us, to find an antidote, and all the medicine makers. Praise be the journalists keeping us informed. Praise be the teachers, finding new ways to educate children from afar, and blessings on parents holding it together for them. Blessed are the elderly and those with weakened immune systems, all those who worry for their health. Praise for those who stay at home to protect them. Blessed are the domestic violence victims on lockdown with abusers, the homeless and refugees. Praise for the artists and poets, the singers and storytellers, all those who nourish with words and sound and color. Blessed are the ministers and therapists of every kind, bringing words of comfort. Blessed are the ones whose jobs are lost, who have no savings, who feel fear of the unknown gnawing. Blessed are those in grief, especially who mourn alone. Blessed are those who have passed into the great night. Praise for police and firefighters, paramedics, and all who work to keep us safe. Praise for all the workers and caregivers of every kind. Praise for the sound of notifications, messages from friends reaching across the distance. Give thanks for laughter and kindness. Praise be our four-footed companions with no forethought or anxiety, responding only in love. Praise for the seas and rivers, forests and stones who teach us to endure. Give thanks for your ancestors, for the wars and plagues they endured and survived. Their resilience is in your bones, your blood. Blessed is the water that flows over our hands and the soap that helps keep them clean each time a baptism. Praise every moment of stillness and silence so new voices can be heard. Praise the chance and slowness. birds who continue to sing the sky awake each day, praise for the primrose poking yellow petals from dark earth. Blessed is the air clearing overhead so one day we can breathe deeply again. And when this has passed, may we say that love spread more quickly than any virus ever could. May we say this was not just an ending, but also a place to begin.
Thank you very much for joining us on Youth Group Live. We would very much love it if you would join us for the Youth Group After Party today. There will be fun games, there will be prizes, and we can talk about what we did in Bible in Youth Group today. Carter and I would very much love it if you would join us. See you there.